Hey everybody, welcome to Raising Vibrations. So today's video, I want to talk to you about the Mars and Pluto square that's going on at the moment. Just want to share my ideas with you, thoughts and perspectives on it. And I also want to draw attention to the significance of Saturn in Pisces, Neptune in Pisces, and the ongoing square that both Saturn and then eventually Neptune will have with the Sun and Venus transit. So I'm not sure if you're familiar, if you're aware, but just recently we've had the Sun and Venus make a conjunction, and this is a big deal because this conjunction is essentially it's like when a new pattern exists in reality, um, especially around the way that we value things and the way we prioritize and what we consider to be important for us in our lives. Like the Venus Sun contact will always be the sort of pattern that we will subconsciously make decisions from, right? So if you value freedom and autonomy, and that's your value systems, your choice making will be deeply influenced by those fundamental core values. So the Sun Venus contact has been significant for us because it's given the opportunity to illuminate within our perceptions what are the things that we actually value and prioritize, and how does that set of values and those priorities then dictate the way that we justify things within our lives. So that's like a dimension that I want to explore with you over here. But that's what I want to bring in the significance of these two transits that are happening: Mars-Pluto square, and then this Venus-Sun contact, and how it's been connecting to these planets in Pisces, right? So that's what I'm going to jam with you today. Okay, so the first thing that I want to talk to you about is, how does this impact us on an individual level? Now, every one of us has our own individual context and our own individual emotional sort of journey that we're on. The Mars-Pluto square. So firstly, in astrology, when you look at a Mars-Pluto square or Mars-Pluto relationship, you're always going to be looking at how there is a pattern that can emerge within our lives that has the energy to sustain something and make it actually real. So whenever Mars-Pluto come into contact with each other, basically what's happening is that there is an opportunity to ride a wave that will actually stick within your life, right? It's like it's an opportunity to actually move something. So it's highly impactful for the lives. So you'll often see, if you go back to your astrology and you look at transits of when Mars and Pluto are squaring, you'll see that there's always something that shifted within your life, right? We make big decisions there, or we develop emotional clarity, and from there a big decision gets made. So oftentimes Mars Pluto squares create a very strong and lasting like emotional impact in our lives. And if you have this type of aspect of Mars Pluto in your life, you'll know that life is always feeling like a constant set of like important decisions that you're making, that's always changing your internal landscape of yourself, and also the way that you actually live your life on the external world. So this Mars Pluto transits and aspects are very powerful and have lasting effects, right? This is oftentimes where we actually make that decision or we move forward with something. So it's a big deal. At an individual level, what's happening here is that each of us can see where something new is wanting to emerge into our world. We're like almost like you're standing at a gate and you're ready to make an important decision or decide something within your life to commit to. So what have you been doing, like exploring or journeying on within your life, that this transit, this Mars Pluto square that's kind of present with us right now, how can this aspect give you the fuel necessary to commit to the choices that you feel are in alignment with your values? And that's pretty much what I said in the new moon in Gemini. But we're at the point now where this aspect that is present with us right now is like in full effect. Like we're at the peak of this exact square. So there is a very strong energetic force that you can ride where committing to a new set of values or a new orientation towards your life and committing to that is like present. So take advantage of that, whatever that might be within yourself. And of course, each of you will have different variations of how that looks, but ultimately the template of this Mars-Pluto square is saying, I'm ready to move in a direction, or I'm ready to commit to something, or I'm ready not to commit to something, or I'm not going to move in that direction, whatever that is for you. But you will know this kind of choice decision making energy within your life, and this is what this is about. It is also, and I think I'm going to go to the chart over here just to kind of bring it into deeper context for us, right? So this is the chart at the moment, and here is this Mars in 1 degree Taurus squaring Pluto retrograde in Aquarius. Okay, so there's the square I'm talking about. The other thing that I was talking about over here was this Venus Sun contact. That if you see, Venus has been recently squaring Saturn. Venus has also been squaring Neptune, and so the Sun doing the same thing, right? So it's these two aspects that I'm kind of speaking to at the moment. So just also a little interesting note over here. The North Node is ruled by Mars. So if whatever Mars is doing right now, you pretty much can know that Mars is whatever activity and activation Mars is going through, it's pretty much also saying this is what the North Node is about. So if you follow the North Node, then look to Mars, and whatever Mars is doing, that's what the North Node is trying basically saying. So that's why I'm saying this aspect, this Mars-Pluto square, is not just an ordinary like Mars-Pluto square. It's Mars-Pluto square synthesized through this North Node pattern, which is this is the way that we move forward. This is the energy. This is where the pattern is being directed, right? If you've ever traveled on an airplane, you'll notice that the traffic control sort of helps the plane navigate and understand exactly how to come into traffic control. So the North Node is very similar to the role that the traffic controller plays to the captain, right? It's like, this is the runway. This is how fast you've got to approach the runway. This is how many planes are in the sky right now. That's the North Node. And Mars, in this context, is the actual pilot flying the direction of the plane and ultimately saying, this is how we're coordinating, this is how we're making our choices. So the synthesis, the symbiosis between the air traffic controller and the captain is basically what's happening with Mars-Pluto at the moment, right? And that's ultimately what actually happens when you're trying to understand the nodes in your chart anyway. So there is a certain direction that the North Node is pointing towards and encouraging us to move towards. And you can feel that if you're responding through your instincts. And it's being filtered through the current square between Mars and Pluto. But then, of course, as I said, it's not just sort of in a void itself. There is context, and that is the Sun-Venus contact that's been happening here, squaring this Neptune-Pluto. Okay, so coming back to what this means for you, my sense of it, well, not my sense, what I can see here is that this is a pattern where each of us has an opportunity to step into what is more authentic and real in our lives. Okay. And the backdrop or context of this is, up until now, the vast majority of the way that we've lived has been deeply conditioned by a set of social cues, social stresses, personality traits that we've needed to adopt in order to orientate and fit into society's context. Well, Pluto retrograde in Aquarius, and eventually Pluto sort of just moving through Aquarius, will progressively force the necessary breakdown of these social agreements that we make, and social rules and social roles that we've had to play, social myths that we've had to run through. And this transit right now is kind of like bringing tension between the old structural orientation and the new that is wanting to emerge. Okay. And what was really fascinating to me is, I don't know if many of you are familiar with it, but right now, that this Mars-Pluto square is happening, this is just one example of many else out there, but this kind of really stood out, was that um, Saudi Arabia has decided to not continue its agreement with the US on the petrodollar. And so this is really interesting because if you go and do some more sort of research or look at more of the what's actually happening over here at the moment, you'll see that up until now, there has been these very Libra, as in South Node in Libra, agreements and negotiations and social contracts that have kept us as societies and the world together. Well, the impact of this decision from the Saudi prince to say, we no longer want to just have you as our sole provider of buying oil, we want to kind of diversify our portfolio and have other countries buy from us, is essentially saying that whatever relationships have happened or have been in place between the states and say Saudi Arabia and the exchange of oil and then the petrodollar, that landscape changes. Right? The ripple effect of this one choice starts to reorganize the entire way in which other systems and other countries and other agreements can function. And as I said, the changing of the landscape reorders something. There's a disruption that's taking place. And this is very much the Mars-Pluto square. It's like they want to be free from the contractual agreements that were made generations before them. And this is actually the core of this transit right now with Mars-Pluto square. And if you remember when Mars and Pluto and Venus and all of that was conjuncting in Aquarius, I made a bunch of videos, and I talked about how this set of transits is going to completely change the landscape of how we, as societies, as governments, as individuals, will regulate the things that we consider to be right for us and authentic for us. So whatever it was that was crystallized a long time ago within our emotional conditioning, or the agreements that we made, or the social myths that we live by, whatever, if anything feels outdated to us or feels like it's no longer what is true in the moment or real in the moment, this transit is kind of this square right now is saying now it's time to action it. But what is being actioned is the original conjunction that took place a couple of months ago, like 2.5 months ago, when I was talking about the onset of a complete decentralization. Like, we're talking about a complete decentralization, breaking part of social norms, social patterns, social myths, and the sort of unmasking of this shared sense that this is how you should live versus what is actually your unique individual truth. So another way to kind of see this at an individual level is that you have a very specific neurological structuring. Not every single person processes reality the same way as you. Not every single person has the same neuro pathways as you, right? You have specific needs that supports the way that your biology functions. And so this energy is sort of like a push towards forming belief systems, Jupiter and Gemini, trining this Pluto, forming a set of belief systems at an individual level. So for you, forming a set of belief systems that reinforces that individuated self-difference or self-differentiating perspective. So it diversifies Gemini energy, yourself away from this you are just a box, and this box just is defined by the social cues and social pressures and the masks you have to wear then to be able to then interact with reality and regulate reality and form the fit into the box, right? This energy is essentially saying no, like, break that apart, step out of that, step into your true self. Almost in a sense, the title of this video is this Mars-Pluto square is about coming into radical alignment with your authenticity and truth, and then living that, right? And the degree to which you can experience and live that is based on your own sort of constraints within your life. But ultimately, what I'm actually trying to say here is a radical shift and prioritization where instead of the top of your life being the top of your Maslow's hierarchy of needs being about, um, you know, social status and keeping up with the Joneses and living a life that's out of your means, to actually coming into prioritizing the self at the top and saying, whatever it is that the self needs, I will be sort of in service to that true, authentic way of being. And that means that whatever it is that is unique about you, whatever it is that's different about you, celebrate that process and prioritize that. And so this Mars-Pluto square is like the pressure to say, step into that, step out of some of the comfort zones that and the models of reality that you've lived in and felt squashed in, and give yourself permission to actually spread your wings and sort of push out away from and push the walls away and actually kind of come into more of what it is that you are and where your agency is and what your autonomous self is about. And we'll have belief systems that are reinforced within us, and we'll say, oh, I can't do that. Or some of us might say, I don't even know who that is. Well, wherever you are, this is all the Gemini stuff, wherever you are, start there, right? The Gemini stuff is allow for wonder and curiosity to lead you into exploring and experiencing yourself in completely different ways, and prioritizing your interests as a way of leading. And the Mars Chiron story, in terms of the traffic control is like the way where the runway is that you need to land. This Mars-Pluto square is in the land of autonomy, in the land of agency, in the land of self-respect, in the land of aligning with value systems that are uniquely your own. And if that deviates from the path that everybody else says you should live, then this energy over here is saying, so what? Like, that's the permission that this kind of energy is asking for at the moment. So that's what I want to offer today in terms of the transits right now. It's just that there is a huge collective emergence in which this Mars-Pluto North Node energy is saying, break it. We want to break out of pre-existing agreements, whether inherited or agreed upon from childhood or whatever that is, go beyond them, right? Break out of these norms, break out of these definitions, recognize that review contracts that you feel in your life no longer are healthy, supportive, or that work in accordance with prioritizing what's in your own interests, and start to form a world where you serve the self at the top and you serve the sort of social needs at the bottom. And what I mean by social needs, I don't mean in the sense of like become narcissistic in a way of like, oh, I'm all important. I don't mean that. I mean more in the sense like prioritizing your health, prioritizing what is your natural biorhythm, prioritizing what types of foods are right for you, prioritizing friendships that nourish you and support you, and prioritize living a way where meaning and happiness and what is emotionally nurturing and helping your mental health. Prioritize those things as a way of coming back to your senses, coming back to what is correct for you, rather than sort of abandoning yourself or stepping out of your naturalness in a way of, as you step out of your naturalness, you kind of like accommodating other people, because what happens if they think, right? And so you forget your dreams, or you lose, you forget about yourself. That's what I'm talking about here. And the natural squares that are happening to Saturn and Pisces over here is essentially just a kind of consistent reflection that it's good to diversify and question and break apart models of reality that you've maybe lived by, that have been so ingrained within you that you didn't even realize maybe you didn't even have a choice when you adopted this belief system. And if you did have a choice at the time, would you still take the same choice? So a lot of the times we have become numb to certain things within our lives and we accept them because that's how they've always been. But what happens if I sort of like rewound you back to that moment and I said to you, as an autonomous, self-preserving agent being, what would you choose under that circumstance? And if your answer is not what I'm choosing now, then that's a great way to work backwards from that moment and unwind any belief systems that you might hold about yourself that you think you have to do in order to accommodate a perspective or belief system or a set of instructions from societal pressures or myths that no longer are relevant for you, right? And that's how you sort of like break down that South Node in Libra. It's like step into truth and authenticity for yourself. Cool. So that is what I want to share with you guys today. I really hope that that resonates with you. Let me know in the comment section if this is true for you. I would love to hear that. The more people say that, the more I can kind of get a sense that I'm on the right track with it. Although I know that I feel very deeply that this is resonating with me in a many way. Cool. I will leave a video in the description for you to check out regarding those other transits. Don't forget, I am hosting or going to be doing some workshops throughout the summer and going into the autumn period. And I would really love to know what type of workshops you guys want me to actually hold and teach. So by doing that, I've created a Telegram group. And all you need to do is just join the group. And in there, we're starting discussions on what types of workshops you would like me to host and teach, what types of things you want me to teach, that you can join and participate in as well. So I'm going to leave a link in the description and just join the Telegram group. We're jamming in there. I get to interact with people as opposed to just sort of like, whoa, what should I do? I'd like to know what you guys want to think as well. So that's there. And that's where I'm going to leave it. Have an amazing day. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.